You're tuned in, and today we're diving straight into something pretty interesting in the tech world.
Yeah. What do we got?
We're focusing on a role that's become, well, really pivotal for a lot of tech companies. The software development engineer in test.
The SDET.
Rightly, the SDET. You're probably hearing that acronym more and more lately.
Definitely seems that way. And for good reason, I think.
Well, that's what we're digging into. We've pulled together quite a bit of info to really unpack what an SDT actually is, what they do day to day,
Hmm.
and, why they're suddenly such a hot commodity.
Sounds good.
Our mission here is basically to give you, the listener, a clear picture of this in-demand role, cutting through some of the, maybe the tech jargon.
That's right. Yeah, you see the title SDET, Software Development Engineer in Test. But what does it really mean?
Good question.
Because it's not just someone who can, do a bit of coding and a bit of testing.
No, it's more integrated than that.
It signifies someone who's genuinely skilled, equally effective, you could say, in both software development and software testing.
Equally effective. That's the key phrase, isn't it? This dual proficiency.
Absolutely.
They're not just tacked on at the end for testing. They're involved, throughout the whole process.
Right from the start, often. And involved in the entire software testing lifecycle, too.
So their focus is really on things like testability, robustness.
Yes, and performance. For both the software itself and the tests they build, their knowledge is geared towards that.
Interesting. And they might even weigh in on the actual software design to make sure it can be tested well.
That's a really important point. That early involvement, thinking about testability from the ground up, it's kind of a hallmark of the role.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, maybe we should compare them to a more traditional software tester role.
Yeah, that's helpful. Let's think about system knowledge first.
Okay.
An SDET usually needs or has a pretty comprehensive understanding of the whole system, like start to finish, end to end.
The big picture.
Exactly. Whereas a traditional tester's knowledge might be, very deep, but maybe more focused on certain modules or specific areas they're testing.
Right, like maybe they know the UI inside out or the database side, but not necessarily how every single piece connects.
Precisely. And that difference in scope impacts how and when they get involved.
Ah, okay, so the lifecycle involvement is different too.
Big time. The SDET is often involved much earlier. Design phases, development discussions, not just waiting for code to test.
Whereas the QA tester typically comes in more when things are ready for that formal testing stage.
Generally, yes. Their primary focus kicks in later in the cycle.
Which makes sense given the difference in skill sets we talked about. The SDDT having high-level skills in both dev and test.
Right. And the software tester, while definitely an expert in testing methods, is typically focused more on, say, preparing and running those test cases based on the specs.
Okay. And does this lead to different responsibilities day to day?
Naturally, yeah. For instance, an SDET might actually develop test automation tools.
Build tools, not just use them.
Sometimes, yeah. Maybe even tools that can be used across different projects, sort of generic automation frameworks.
Wow, okay. That's definitely not something you typically expect from a traditional tester.
Not usually, no. Their focus is more on using existing tools and executing tests.
So the SDET is building infrastructure, in a way. And what else? Performance testing.
Yes, that often falls to the SDET. Finding bottlenecks, stress testing the system. They might also automate things like generating the test data needed.
While the traditional tester's tasks are more purely testing focused, executing the plan.
Exactly. And one last point of comparison. Product knowledge.
Okay.
An SDET is generally expected to have a pretty solid grasp of the product requirements, maybe even the business logic behind them.
Understanding, though, why not just the what?
Kinda, yeah. That
Well-
level of business context isn't always a primary expectation for a traditional QA role, which might focus more on verifying against technical specs.
Got it. So yeah, the SDET really comes across as much more embedded in the development process overall.
Definitely.
Now, why the big push for them now? Why are organizations actively seeking SDETs? It seems to be about getting that blend, right? Someone who can build and test.
Well, I think it boils down to wanting greater efficiency and ultimately higher quality software.
Makes sense.
If you have someone who understands code deeply and understands testing deeply, the idea is you get better high-performance code developed alongside more effective, robust testing frameworks.
So it streamlines things, leads to fewer bugs.
That's the goal. Ideally, yes. Fewer defects slip through, you get more stable releases, you hear about teams using SDE for automation,
Mhm.
and, drastically cutting down regression testing time.
Which frees people up for other kinds of testing, right? More exploratory stuff.
Exactly. Faster cycles, more confidence in the releases. It's sort of like getting that highly skilled two-for-one deal.
Which sounds pretty valuable in today's fast-moving tech world. Okay, so let's talk advantages. What specific benefits do SDETs bring? One thing mentioned is automating acceptance tests using their coding skills.
Yeah, that's huge. Instead of just manual checks against user stories or criteria.
They write scripts.
They write automated scripts to verify that stuff. Much faster, more consistent feedback for the developers.
And because they have that engineering background, they can think like a developer and like an end user. That seems powerful.
It really is. They can bridge that gap, translating user needs into concrete, testable scenarios effectively. Helps ensure the experience is actually good.
And they can achieve better code coverage through unit testing,
Yes, their dev skills mean they can write or contribute significantly to unit tests, catching bugs really early, sometimes before code even gets merged.
which saves time and effort later. And they seem pretty self-sufficient too, able to build, deploy, run, manage apps themselves.
That level of autonomy is a major plus. Having that end-to-end capability makes them incredibly versatile.
And their influence goes beyond just testing, it sounds like. They impact design, development, program management.
Absolutely. By bringing that testing perspective, that focus on quality and user scenarios, into those early discussions about technical implementation.
So with all these benefits, it's not surprising they're in demand. The sources say this is driven by new tech, agile methods.
Makes sense as systems get more complex and development speeds up.
You need that integrated quality focus. The sources mention they're mainly needed across various fields, though no specifics are listed. But you'd assume places where software failure is costly. Finance, e-commerce.
That seems logical, yeah. Anywhere reliability and performance are absolutely critical. Healthcare, too, probably. The need just intensifies as software complexity grows.
Okay, so for anyone listening who's thinking, maybe this SDT path is for me, or maybe someone building a team, what are the essential skills? Let's start with non-technical. Communication comes up first.
Oh, absolutely critical. You're constantly explaining test cases, plans, strategies, and bug reports need to be crystal clear.
Verbal, written, all of it.
All of it. Clarity is key for collaboration.
Time management and organization, too. Sounds like a demanding job, especially in your releases.
It can be, yeah. You need to juggle priorities, manage your workload effectively, stay productive when things get hectic.
And then there's this great attitude, which is actually an acronym.
Yeah. Gradually raise expertise in all technologies,
I like that. Emphasizes continuous learning.
which is vital in tech,
Right.
right? And the other part is about independence, task ownership.
Being able to take something and run with it.
Exactly. That proactive, autonomous approach is really valued.
And lastly, passion. Passion for testing, development, and design. You really need to enjoy both sides of it.
That intrinsic motivation, that genuine interest in the whole life cycle, that often separates the good SDTs from the truly great ones.
Okay, non-technical skills covered. Let's hit the technical side. Programming languages are obviously key. C#, .NET, Java.
Foundational, yeah. You need solid proficiency in at least one major language to write effective automation, build tools, understand the code base.
And experience with Agile plus DevOps. That reflects how modern software gets built, right?
Totally. You need to work within those collaborative, iterative frameworks. Testing isn't separate, it's integrated throughout the pipeline. Faster feedback, continuous improvement.
Knowledge of specific test methods and tools is also listed. Things like MS Test, Unit, TestG, Selenium WebDriver.
Right, having the right tools in your toolkit. Selenium WebDriver, for example, is huge for web UI automation. It lets you script browser actions, mimicking users.
So you need familiarity with different frameworks for different kinds of testing. Unit, integration, UI.
Exactly. Knowing which tool or approach fits the specific need.
Exposure to behavior-driven development, BDD, also comes up. What's that about?
BDD is more about collaboration, defining software behavior using plain language examples that business folks, devs, and testers can all understand.
So it helps everyone get on the same page.
Pretty much. And the SDT often takes those plain language specifications and turns them into automated tests, ensures you're building what was actually agreed upon.
Makes sense. And the ability to find performance bottlenecks using automation tools.
Yeah, back to performance testing. It's not just running tests, but analyzing the results, identifying where the system slows down or breaks under load.
Ensuring it can handle real-world demands.
Exactly. And finally, understanding object-oriented design, O.
Core software development stuff.
Absolutely. Good ODE principles help you write test code that's well-structured, reusable, maintainable, crucial for keeping those automation frameworks healthy long-term.
Wow. It really is a broad mix of skills. Developer skills, tester skills, analytical skills.
It's definitely a hybrid role.
So let's get practical.
Right.
What does an SDET actually do day to day? What are those key responsibilities?
Well, a big chunk is often test automation, developing scripts, setting up frameworks, whether it's for web, mobile, desktop apps.
Building that testing infrastructure we talked about.
Right, making it scalable, reliable. They also often investigate customer issues that get escalated from support.
Ah, so debugging real-world problems.
Sometimes, yeah. It takes technical chops and good problem-solving skills to figure out the root cause.
And obviously creating and managing bug reports, communicating those clearly to the team.
Essential. Good bug reports are vital for getting things fixed efficiently. SDETs also help define quality by creating test scenarios, acceptance tests.
Making sure the software actually meets the requirements.
And user expectations, yeah.
The sources also mention technical communications with partners, understanding client systems or APIs.
That can be part of it too. Acting as a technical bridge between systems or teams, ensuring things integrate smoothly, requires good communication skills again.
And working with deployment teams, resolving issues during release.
Yeah, helping troubleshoot system-level problems that might pop up when you're trying to get the software out the door.
And of course, maintaining the automation frameworks they build. It's not just build it and forget it.
Definitely not. Software changes, frameworks need updates, tests need adapting. It's ongoing work. And, all these responsibilities can vary a bit, company to company, project to project.
Sure, that makes sense. Now, people are probably wondering about salary. What can an SDET expect to earn? We have some averages for India and the US.
Right. The figures we saw suggest an average in India around $6,092,692 per year.
Okay.
And in the USA, the average was about $74,291 annually.
But these are just averages, right? Lots of factors involved.
Oh, absolutely. Experience level, location, the specific company, individual skills. It can vary quite a bit. Plus, you usually have benefits on top of that.
Yeah, health insurance, retirement plans, other perks reflects a value placed on the role.
For sure.
So painting a picture of a typical workday, what does that look like?
Sounds pretty varied. Often starts with understanding the project docs, getting up to speed.
And creating and running tests.
A lot of that, yeah. Verifying features, looking for bugs, then reporting those bugs,
Right.
and later retesting the fixes.
The core QA loop.
Right. But they also contribute beyond that, remember?
Yeah, contributing to the design team. Giving input on testability.
Exactly. And providing feedback to the developers based on what they find in testing. Trying to improve quality proactively.
And maybe participating in team activities, collaboration stuff.
Yeah, they're usually very integrated members of the engineering team.
Okay, last piece. Career progression.
Mm.
Where can someone go starting as an SDET? The info outlines a path in, like a CMMI level 5 company.
Right. A typical path might look something like this. Start as an SDET, maybe straight out of school or transitioning.
Fresher level.
Yeah. Then after, say, 2-3 years, move up to senior SDET. More complex work, maybe some mentoring.
Okay.
Then maybe 5-8 years in, you could become an SDET team coordinator or lead,
Yeah.
some leadership responsibility.
Managing tasks, guiding the team a bit.
Exactly. And then with 8+ years, potentially moving into an SDET manager role, overseeing the whole SDE function or team.
So clear growth potential from individual contributor to management. But again, this probably varies by company.
Oh, for sure. It's just a general guideline, company structure, individual performance opportunities. They all play a part, but it shows there's a path.
Definitely. So wrapping this all up, it seems pretty clear the SDET is this really vital blend. Developer, tester, maybe even a bit of project manager perspective in there.
Yeah, that hybrid nature is key.
And that all-in-one skill set, as the sources called it, really explains why the role is challenging, interesting, and, well, highly sought after right now.
Precisely. That ability to work across the whole life cycle, always focusing on quality and testability, it makes them incredibly valuable, especially as software gets more complex.
It really does make you think. As software keeps getting more intricate, more connected, how will this SDET role continue to evolve?
That's a great question.
What new skills might become crucial? Maybe more AML knowledge for smarter testing, deeper security expertise.
Could be. It'll be fascinating to watch how it adapts.
Definitely something for listeners to ponder. Well, thanks for digging into the world of the SDET with us today on this deep dive.